In one of my videos, I said a grand jury can always say no to a request for an indictment. Days later, for the first time in the memory of the legal community, grand juries started saying no. Another video of mine urged states to read the 10th Amendment, and days later, for the first time in decades, it's mentioned in newly filed suits. More proof has come to light that people are listening to me. In the latest example, those people are members of Trump's gang. Immediately after the murders of Renee Good and Alex Pretty, Trump's henchmen quickly and loudly accused them of being domestic terrorists. They purposely misstated what happened. They stumbled over each other to get Trump's lies out to the public. They wanted so much to please Trump. But then I posted another video citing state and federal statutes that make it a felony to gaslight people. So now, Kristi Noem says Trump and Stephen Miller told her to lie. And Stephen Miller says Bovino misinformed him. And Bovino says Vance gave the order to lie. And Vance says it's what Trump wanted, and so on and so on. The backpedaling and excuses don't relieve them from criminal liability. It only provides more evidence of their guilt. Even though Trump might not be subject to arrest while sitting as president, it is still important that he be charged with violating Minnesota law. With state charges, where Trump is powerless to stop prosecution, the rats leaving Trump's sinking ship will surely offer to testify against him for lenient treatment. Minnesota Attorney General Ellison has stated there is no exemption for federal officers. He said nobody gets to commit a crime in Minnesota and be unaccountable for it. If you are in Minnesota and if you are going out in the cold to protest, do it at the prosecutor's office because they can produce results. But what about federal charges? 18 U.S. Code Section 1512C2 makes it illegal to corruptly influence any official proceeding or to attempt to do so. Section 1512F says the official proceeding need not be pending. In other words, it's against the law to use lies to try and stop a grand jury investigation from even starting. Numerous DOJ attorneys who believe they answer to Pam Bondi, who answers to Trump, have resigned in protest because they were instructed to reinforce the lies about Good and Pretty. I'm sure they believed they were doing the honorable thing. However, what they really did is disobey their sworn oath. Grand jurors were seated just down the hall. All these disaffected federal prosecutors had to do was show these grand jurors the corrupt instructions they received from Bondi and identify the participants in the conspiracy to illegally influence a grand jury. Indictments would have been issued against all who passed on the lies, including Trump. I'm sure the thought that they could have their boss arrested never occurred to them. They forget their boss isn't Bondi, and it isn't Trump. They work for the United States of America. You know, in September of 2024, a Kentucky sheriff shot and killed a judge in his courthouse office. His deputies heard the shots and quickly ran into the judge's chambers where they arrested the sheriff. The sheriff didn't tell the deputies they couldn't arrest him because he was their boss. The sheriff didn't fire the deputies for arresting him. But what if he had pulled rank to avoid arrest? Would those deputies really have been fired for doing their sworn duty? Just like the DOJ lawyers who took the same oath as the deputies, the boss loses the ability to fire them the moment they commit a crime. What better, more honorable way of getting job security is there than prosecuting these corrupt officials? In the Minnesota cases of gaslighting, in an attempt to avoid having the killers of Good and Pretty brought to justice, everyone who participated in spreading the lies should be indicted by a federal grand jury. Those who seek to prevent it should also be indicted for joining in the conspiracy in violation of 1512K. Though it is DOJ policy not to prosecute a sitting president, there is no obstruction to obtaining an indictment, which stops the statute of limitations and removes his authority to fire those who had him indicted.